Your brain is talking to you right now. A low, steady signal underneath every thought, every decision, every hesitation. And you can't hear it because you haven't been quiet long enough in years. Most people spend their entire lives asking for clarity from friends, from therapists, from strangers on the internet, while drowning out the one source that already has the answer. By the end of this, you'll understand why silence works the way it does, what solitude actually changes in your brain, and how to access a kind of knowing that noise makes physically impossible. The cost of missing this is subtle but enormous. You keep outsourcing decisions that only you can make. Think about the last time you had a problem you couldn't solve. What did you do? You probably talked to someone, scrolled, listened to a podcast, read an article, filled every gap with input, and the answer, when it finally came, showed up in the shower, or at 3 a.m, or on a walk when your phone was dead. That pattern is a clue most people notice but never investigate. The shower isn't magic. The 3 a.m. stillness isn't coincidence. Those are the rare moments when external input drops to near zero and your brain switches modes. Neuroscience has a name for what activates in those moments, but the mechanism matters more than the label. When you stop consuming information, your brain begins consolidating it. Fragments connect, contradictions surface. Patterns emerge that were always there, buried under the next notification. And this consolidation process has a strange requirement. It needs you to do nothing. Actively doing nothing, sitting with silence, walking without a destination, staring out a window, feels like waste. Every instinct says you should be productive. Check something, respond to someone, optimize the next hour. That instinct is the exact thing blocking the signal. Here's what happens in your body when noise stops. Your breathing slows first. Within a few minutes, your heart rate drops. Muscle tension you didn't know you were carrying starts to release. That tightness in your jaw, the knot between your shoulder blades. These physical shifts change your cognitive state. A relaxed body processes information differently than a tense one. The tense version is scanning for threats, prioritizing speed, filtering out anything that doesn't seem immediately relevant. The relaxed version opens the aperture. Connections that seemed unrelated start linking together. This is why monks sit in silence for hours and report experiences that sound mystical, but have a mechanical explanation. Extended quiet changes what your brain prioritizes. The urgent falls away. The important rises. But modern life has engineered silence out of existence. Count the number of minutes today where you had zero input, no music, no podcast, no scrolling, no television in the background, no conversation. For most people, that number is close to zero, unless they were sleeping. Even then, many fall asleep to a screen. We've built an environment where the signal never gets through, and then we wonder why we feel lost. Solitude does something silence alone can't. When other people are present, even people you love, a part of your processing power allocates to them, reading their expressions, anticipating their needs, performing a version of yourself. This social processing runs constantly, like an app you never close. It drains resources you don't notice until they come back. The first few minutes of genuine solitude feel uncomfortable for a reason. That discomfort is withdrawal. Your brain has been running on external stimulation as a baseline, and when you pull the supply, it protests. Boredom hits, restlessness, a crawling urge to reach for your phone. Most people interpret this discomfort as evidence that solitude is wrong for them. Actually, it's the transition cost. The quiet on the other side of that discomfort is where the signal lives. Researchers studying long-duration solitude, people on solo retreats, sailors crossing oceans alone, hermits in contemplative traditions, found a consistent pattern. After the initial discomfort passes, usually between 48 and 72 hours, subjects report a shift in perception. Their thinking slows down, internal dialogue becomes less frantic, and a different quality of thought emerges, slower, more spatial, less verbal. People describe it as knowing without thinking or seeing the whole picture at once. That description sounds vague until you've experienced it. Then it sounds precise. You've had glimpses already, a moment where you just knew the relationship was over, before you could articulate why. A gut sense about a job offer that turned out to be exactly right, a decision that made no logical sense on paper, but felt like the only option. Those moments of clarity came from the same place, The difference is you access them accidentally, in stolen seconds of quiet, instead of deliberately. So what blocks it the rest of the time? Volume. Sheer volume of input. The average person encounters more information in a single day than someone in the 15th century encountered in a year. Your brain is processing an ocean through a garden hose, all day, every day. Under that load, it triages ruthlessly. Subtle signals, intuition, pattern recognition, emotional intelligence get deprioritized in favor of whatever seems loudest and most immediate. Silence reverses the triage. When the flood stops, your brain can finally attend to the quiet signals that we're always transmitting. You start noticing what you actually feel about a situation instead of what you think about it. Those are different things. Thinking is verbal, sequential, often borrowed from other people's opinions. Feeling is spatial, immediate, and entirely yours. The distinction matters because most bad decisions come from mistaking someone else's logic for your own knowing. You took the job because it made sense. You stayed in the relationship because on paper it worked. You followed the path because everyone said it was right. Sense paper, everyone, those are external inputs. Your actual signal was saying something different, but you couldn't hear it over the consensus. Solitude strips the consensus away. When there's nobody to perform for, nobody's expectations to manage, nobody's framework to borrow, you're left with just the signal. And it's often saying something uncomfortable. That's the other reason people avoid silence. The guidance that emerges tends to be inconvenient. Leave the job, have the conversation, stop pretending. The quiet voice rarely tells you what you want to hear. It tells you what you already know. A Finnish study measured the effects of 2 hours of silence on brain cell growth in the hippocampus, the region responsible for memory formation and spatial awareness. 2 hours. The growth was measurable. The brain literally builds new architecture when you give it quiet. Compare that to what noise does. Chronic noise exposure correlates with elevated stress hormones, impaired memory consolidation, and reduced capacity for complex reasoning. The environment most of us live in is actively degrading the hardware we need to hear our own guidance. So the practice is embarrassingly simple. Sit somewhere without stimulation. Do it for longer than feels comfortable. Let the boredom wash through. Let the restlessness peak and pass. And then notice what surfaces. The first few sessions, you'll mostly hear mental chatter, your to-do list replaying, anxiety circling, song fragments looping. That's the buffer clearing. Beneath the chatter, something quiet awaits. You can shortcut the process slightly, walking in nature without headphones, sitting by water, lying in a dark room. These environments reduce sensory input enough that the transition happens faster. The key variable is the same in every case: zero input. Your brain must run out of external data to process before it turns inward. As long as there's a podcast playing or a feed refreshing, the inward turn gets postponed. There's a reason every contemplative tradition in human history, across every continent, every century, every belief system, converges on the same prescription: silence, solitude, extended stillness. These traditions disagree on almost everything else: theology, cosmology, ethics, diet, ritual, wildly different answers. Yet they all arrived at the same doorway. That convergence across thousands of independent experiments suggests they found something real, something structural about how human awareness works when you remove the interference. Critics point out that solitude can amplify rumination, negative thought spirals that worsen anxiety and depression. They're right. Silence without intention becomes an echo chamber for your worst loops. The difference is direction. Rumination is the mind chewing the same thought repeatedly, tighter and tighter. The kind of silence that produces guidance has a quality of openness. You're listening, waiting, receiving. One is a fist, the other is an open hand. The posture matters. You don't need a monastery. You don't need a week. You need 20 minutes where nobody can reach you and nothing is playing. Do it tomorrow morning, before the day's input starts, before email, before the news, before anyone else's voice enters your head. Sit with whatever surfaces. The discomfort will feel like a wall. Walk through it. On the other side, your own voice is waiting. It's been talking this whole time. The problem was never that you lacked guidance. The room was just too loud to hear it. And the uncomfortable extension of this idea: If silence reveals what you already know, then every day you fill with noise is a day you choose not to listen, which raises a question about what exactly you're afraid of hearing.